a touch of gray, begged her to run her fingers through it. She didn't like his dominant, sculpted cheekbones or his crooked nose. Most women would yearn to run their hands over every sculpted, muscular inch of his 6'3" body. But she wouldn't think about how warm his skin would feel, or about having his long, tapered fingers brush against her nipples. Damn it! She took a deep breath and ignored the fact his gaze dipped to her breasts, then refocused on her face. It's actually harder to figure out what they're planning because we don't know who supports them. If we knew, as we did with the Gorgons, who wanted our resources, we would have a better assessment. Of course, you know as well as I that I evaluate the data collected by the Federation of Nations' various intelligence groups. The chatter has been rising over the last few months. I believe this attack may be planned for New Year's Eve. With the year being 2099, these new terrorists probably believe carrying out an attack would be easier and the impact greater that night. The security forces will be stretched thin because of the celebrations. Carlyle raised an eyebrow. The corner of his lips lifted more. "Any questions for Ms. Adams?" he asked, not taking his eyes off her. She refused to fidget. A barrage of negative responses came from the other 5 gentlemen. She sighed, relieved to be finished. She hated these highly classified meetings. Yet the Federation stayed only a few steps ahead of the people who hacked into their systems, so being there in person eliminated one access spies had to her reports. She turned off her micropad and was within 5 seconds of a clean getaway when Carlyle stopped her. "I would like to see you in my office after lunch, Ms. Adams." His deep voice shimmied down her spine. She plastered on the fakest smile she possessed. "Of course, Mr. Carlyle. Shana Adams, authorized." The silver door slid open, and she walked through the doorway, using every ounce of her willpower not to stick out her middle finger as the door slid closed behind her. She walked down the myriad of hallways that led to her workstation. Before she entered the office that led to her cubicle, her retina was scanned for security. Irritated with her reaction to Carlyle, Shana avoided well-meaning coworkers and just smiled and nodded as she walked. After reaching the solitude of her cubicle, the earlier breach plagued her thoughts. Telepathic from birth, she had learned to control it. She hadn't had a slip like that since adolescence. She glanced at the hologram of her and her brother, David. Born only 10 months apart, they grew up as close as some twins. The secret of their powers, something their parents had kept hidden for all of their lives, made them even closer. People with telepathic powers weren't allowed to work in government. Hell, they weren't even allowed to have normal lives. Ever since Ripley Johnson had led a revolt in the late 40s with a group of paras who had used their skills to help him, the Federation had cracked down on anyone with the ability. Many had seen what Johnson had done as treason, and had grouped all paras along with him and his followers. Any paras discovered spent their lives in think tanks or research labs at the mercy of scientists. It was the Federation's way of dealing with people like her, keeping them under control, so to speak. And Marcus's family had been instrumental in breaking up the rebellion. It was well known within the company that Marcus had an immense hatred of paras. He saw them all as traitors and killers. Shana sighed and rubbed her temple. Her skills as an expert on terrorism were useless outside of government, at least on Earth. She didn't want to be separated from her family. She needed to call David and find out what the hell was going on with her. A slip like that could cause her to lose her job and commit her to a lifetime of torture. She shivered. But the thing foremost in her mind was the question of just who had been thinking about how she tasted. Chapter 2. Marcus allowed the conversation of his department heads to carry on as his mind drifted to Ms. Adams, dressed in her usual smart pantsuit. Shana. All he could think of was licking her from top to bottom like his favorite treat, melon cybersticks. He'd known